Toronto, it gets humid in the summertime, so we're just going to open the windows front and back and just take it easy.
Come out early and do my walk and then stay in and enjoy the air conditioning.
They've got the right idea. People are being advised to plan for the weather as it's going to be a hot one in Toronto today and through the rest of the week. Good afternoon. Temperatures will be in the low 30s today, but will feel like the low 40s with all the humidity.
A heat warning is in effect for all of southern and central Ontario, and people are being urged to stay cool and keep hydrated. CTV's Mike Walker has been speaking with people trying to beat the heat and joins us now live with more. How are things outside, Mike?
Nathan, it's not too hot just yet. Of course, it's going to get hotter this afternoon. There is a bit of a nice breeze here in the shade where we are in Midtown. We've been speaking with a lot of people who are embracing the heat, but are also being mindful of the potential health risks and tell us they'll be drinking lots of water and taking some breaks in the shade whenever possible. A morning jog under the tree canopy of the Beltline, an attempt to get ahead of the mercury before it soars.
I saw the forecast and I knew I had to go now or never. It still took me an extra hour. I'm already feeling the heat. I wish I went an hour ago.
A heat warning is in effect for the GTA, the National Weather Agency warning the prolonged heat event could bring dangerously hot and humid conditions. Temperatures feeling more like 40 to 45 degrees with the humidex.
I'm not too worried. It's Toronto, it gets humid in the summertime, so we're just going to open the windows front and back and just take it easy and lie low, and it'll be fine.
For those working outside, extra precautions are being taken. For this road crew, it feels even hotter working on this mill.
It's like being down south in the winter. You just got to make sure you keep drinking water.
The City of Toronto has opened 10 swimming pools and wading pools ahead of schedule. The pools will be open in the evening this week. The waterfront is where many people will be seeking refuge.
Love the warmer conditions, yeah. No, it's been cold the last 2 weeks. Even the lake water has been cold, so I actually welcome the heat.
Health officials warning heat stroke, heat cramps, and exhaustion are all possible when it's this hot out. Many plan on going indoors and relying on this.
Come out early and do my walk and then stay in and enjoy the air conditioning.
The city says there are more than 600 cool spaces as part of its heat relief network, including community centers and libraries. So again, it's expected to get even hotter this afternoon. On top of staying hydrated, public health officials are also recommending that you limit any outdoor and physical activity to cooler hours of the day. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mike. And speaking of the heat, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. As we mentioned, the city remains under a heat warning. Temperatures are still rising, and this will be the trend for several days, so we'll have to adjust, get used to it. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. There are concerns about this heat, Jessica.
People love the summertime heat, but this kind of heat can be a little bit tricky, right? We're looking at a multi-day heat event, and what prompts a heat warning is different in different parts of the province. Anywhere kind of in towards this line here, towards Windsor, Chatham, Kent, it's different there as opposed to across central and southern Ontario and northern Ontario, but we are almost everywhere into that heat warning criteria of 31 or higher during the day, 20 or higher for that overnight low, and a humidex value of 40 or higher. So we have that and then some, and that's what's prompted this heat warning criteria. Right now we're sitting at 23. It feels like 28, but we are getting there as we head throughout the rest of our day. It feels like 35 already through Hamilton. It feels like 34 through Niagara. Winds are feeling like 33 even through Muskoka. Out through Ottawa, they're feeling between 29 and 35. The heat is going to continue to build. So as we see the jet stream kind of reach over us, we're just looking at warm air. So no matter which way the wind is blowing, it's hot air regardless. And when you see those deeper reds start to creep into the forecast, that's when you know it is extremely hot. Yes, we love the summertime heat, but it can be very challenging for those who don't have air conditioning. So this is your reminder to check on those vulnerable people in your life and even be cautious with your pets, taking them outside, and never leave anybody or anything in the car. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. Right now, it's back to Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Jess. Durham Regional Police have announced the results of a major drug and human trafficking investigation.
Over 100 charges have been laid against more than 90 suspects as part of Project Martini. CTV's Janice Golding has been following this story. She joins us live with more. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, Durham Regional Police have just released the results of Project Martini, an investigation they say they undertook at the urging of local business people who were very concerned about drug trafficking and human trafficking in the region. Now, investigators say as a result of their efforts, they've taken about $600,000 worth of illegal street drugs off the roads, worth about, as I said, $600,000. 3 kilograms of methamphetamine, 1 kilogram of cocaine, 1 kilogram of fentanyl, and $30,000 in cash. The investigation spanned the entire region, including Oshawa, Clarington, Whitby, and Ajax, and resulted in the execution of 11 search warrants, 92 arrests, and 113 criminal charges. These charges were related to drug trafficking, property crimes, violent crimes, and the procurement of sexual services. The project also helped 62 people access public health support programs and 38 people access support programs for sex trade workers.
We wanted to demonstrate in our community that drug trade is not welcome. We are facing across this nation one of the worst healthcare crises I think that our nation has ever faced. And we are seeing people daily dying from opiate poisoning or fentanyl poisoning. The great city of Oshawa, along with Durham Regional Police, our Health and Social Services Department at the region of Durham, are going to do everything we possibly can.
Not only does Project Martini tackle crime head on, but it also extends a helping hand to those in need of support and assistance. We remain steadfast in our commitment to fostering a safe and secure environment for all of our community members.
Now, the mayor went on to say every day in our country we are losing 24 people due to the drug epidemic, and we all need to be doing more to combat the problem and to protect the most vulnerable in our society. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
All right, thank you, Janice. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators recently arrested by Toronto police gathered outside the Armory Courthouse this morning, outlining the alleged abuses they faced while in custody. 4 people were arrested earlier this month at a rally outside the U.S. consulate. Demonstrators claim they were assaulted by police and have had unreasonable bail conditions imposed on them, including protest bans.
I am not allowed to participate in or be associated with any protest, assembly, or demonstration for any cause. This contradicts my rights under the Canadian Charter. However, I am not surprised by the actions of TPS because I am an Indigenous woman.
Demonstrators say more than 70 people have been arrested at rallies since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas on October 7th.
A man is in hospital after being shot in Etobicoke. Police were called to a residence on Esmond Crescent near Islington and the 401 around midnight. Paramedics say a man was suffering from gunshot wounds and was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. So far, there's no word on suspects. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward.
And one person's fighting for their life in hospital after a crash in Stouffville. OPP say a vehicle swerved off Highway 48 between Cherry Street and St. John's Side Road at around 5:30 this morning. The vehicle smashed through a guardrail. The driver was taken to hospital in critical condition. It's unclear what caused the vehicle to swerve off the road. And York Regional Police are investigating a crash involving a motorcycle in Vaughan. This happened at around 3 yesterday afternoon on Highway 7 between Highway 27 and Vaughan Valley Boulevard. The extent of the motorcyclist's injuries have not been released, and the cause of the crash remains under investigation.
Officials are turning to X-ray technology to crack down on all the auto thefts, unveiling a new scanner this weekend.
The new technology is aimed at making it easier for officers to spot the stolen vehicles before they leave the country. CTV's Christina Tenalia has the details.
The city of Toronto is the auto theft hub of Canada.
This is an alarming circumstance.
With 4 other Greater Toronto Area cities trailing behind, officials from all 3 levels of government gathered at the Canadian Border Services headquarters to show off the latest tool to stop stolen cars before they leave this country.
This is a very powerful tool. This scanner is a game changer.
Federal ministers unveiled this large, mobile X-ray scanner. It'll be deployed at locations across the Toronto area this summer.
It's a lot cheaper and more effective to intercept the stolen vehicles here in the GTA or in Montreal before they make it to one of the busiest ports in Canada.
The device will allow border officers to scan shipping containers using high-energy radiation that penetrates the entire container, giving a clear image of what's inside. The Insurance Bureau of Canada calls auto theft a national crisis.
This is a crisis that is Canada-wide, and Ontario is the epicenter.
In 2023, auto theft claims soared to a record-breaking $1.5 billion in Canada. More than $1 billion worth of claims came from Ontario alone.
The introduction of a scanner like this, a portable one in the GTA, is going to help. Hopefully what it does is help identify stolen vehicles earlier in the supply chain.
Following Ontario, Quebec and Alberta top the country's list for highest auto theft claims. For security and investigative purposes, the CBSA won't say how many units they've purchased, and they won't say when more of these scanners could be deployed across the country. A spokesperson adds a more than $25 million investment from the federal government will help the agency determine how to make use of more detection technology in other parts of Canada. Christina Tenalia, CTV News, Toronto.
Fire crews returned to a building in Leaside after a fire flared up again. The business at 25 Commercial Road caught fire on Friday, which caused extensive damage. Flames and smoke broke out again around 12:30 a.m. today, and it grew to a 2-alarm fire. It's since been knocked down, and firefighters are continuing to monitor for hot spots.
The investigation is continuing into the devastating fire at St. Anne's Anglican Church.
The first service since the fire was held yesterday, but parishioners are still searching for answers about what sparked the blaze. CTV's Rahim Ladani has been following the story. He joins us live from outside the church with the latest. Rahim.
Michelle and Nathan, good afternoon. Yes, the area here in front of the church continues to be held by police, and a short while ago, more machinery has been brought in. I'll step out of frame so you can get a better picture of what's happening. This green lift equipment has been brought in. The Office of the Fire Marshal tells us it's to help with the demolition of the roof, and you can see crews going up right now. A short while ago, they actually secured the roof trusses, and then right now in that lift, they have what appears to be a chainsaw. And so the OFM is still trying to determine what caused the fire here at St. Anne's Anglican over a week ago. But I want to show you what this area looked like yesterday, because the scene was quite different. The church held its first outdoor service in the parking lot of Parish Hall. Members of the congregation brought their own chairs to sit on. The choir handed out new hymn books because the old ones were lost in the fire. And people also added to a memory wall, sharing their connections to the church. A GoFundMe page to build back the church has now raised more than $25,000 so far. Take a listen to what some parishioners and Reverend Don Byers had to say.
I came Canada 2006 May Saturday. From Sunday till today, I'm always coming in the church. So this is my church.
This service was incredible. It was absolutely needed for the community. It really it touched me. I've only been a member of the choir and of St. Anne's since March of 2023, and we're all really deeply feeling this loss.
You got to keep doing that. That's what we're about. We're not really museum keepers. We're people that continue a mission and work.
The plan is for service to continue here at the church, not in the parking lot, but actually inside Parish Hall, which is right beside the church. Reverend Don Byers tells us that they're working with Toronto Hydro to generate full power so that they can hold service there for the foreseeable future. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Right. Thank you, Rahim. The union representing LCBO workers will have an update tonight after members voted overwhelmingly in favor of strike action. OPSEU says 97% of members voted in favor of job action. The union says that's a strong message to the premier, who recently announced he was accelerating a plan to allow big box and convenience stores to sell wine and beer.
Advance voting continues in a federal by-election in Toronto, which is being watched closely across the country. Today is the final day of early voting in Toronto St. Paul's. The Midtown riding was held by former Liberal Cabinet Minister Carolyn Bennett for 26 years before she stepped down to become Canada's ambassador to Denmark. A record 84 candidates are on the ballot. The special ballot is roughly a meter long and features 2 columns for all the names. Eligible voters have until 6 p.m. Tuesday to apply to cast their ballot by mail. Election Day is June 24th, and for more details, you can head to elections.ca.
A major nightly closure is set for the subway this week. Today through Friday, service on Line 1 will end at 11 p.m. between St. Clair and College, including at Bloor-Yonge Station. Shuttle buses will run, as will other service routes and stations on the opposite side of Line 1.
Still to come, Canada has committed more money to Ukraine's war effort. It comes as dozens of nations met to express solidarity with the embattled nation over the weekend. We'll have those details a little later in the newscast. But first, officials are on high alert due to a number of wildfires burning across the country.
A hotter than normal summer is predicted for most of the country, which could lead to another year of dangerous wildfire conditions. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson has the story.
After thousands in northern BC and Alberta were forced out of their homes earlier this spring, with flames dangerously close to multiple communities, this week, a note of good news.
The number of fires is well below average for this time of the year. It is also well below the 10-year average for the total area burned.
But Environment Canada is already warning the chance of a hotter than normal summer is virtually 100% almost everywhere east of Manitoba. Above average heat is also likely on the prairies and most of the west.
Key areas of concern include northeastern British Columbia, northern Alberta, south central Northwest Territories, and northern Quebec.
BC is particularly concerned about the low snowpack this year, the government confirming it's only 57% of normal, which will limit runoff and stream flows, as well as prolong intense drought.
As we get into the core of the fire season, namely July and August, that underlying drought really is going to play a huge driver in bringing us intense fires.
Coming off the most destructive fire season in Canadian history that burned a record 18.5 million hectares of land, Ottawa is touting investments in new equipment and millions more for help on the front line.
And are on track to train 1,000 additional firefighters by the end of this year, which is 3 years ahead of schedule.
In BC, the provincial government is also making it easier for fire evacuees to access support, increasing the nightly accommodation allowance and making it available through e-transfer to hopefully save some time and frustration. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
In California, residents in the path of a wildfire north of Los Angeles have been told to be ready to leave if the blaze grows again. Strong winds push flames from the post fire through dry bush in mountains along a highway. Los Angeles County's first major wildfire of the year grew to nearly 60 square kilometers yesterday. It forced the evacuation of at least 1,200 people from a recreation area the day before that. The blaze was just 2% contained last night. No injuries have been reported, and the cause is under investigation.
A rally was held downtown yesterday to call on the federal government to grant permanent status to undocumented migrants. The rally, organized by the Migrant Rights Network, was held outside Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland's office near Bloor and Spadina. Demonstrators called on Ottawa to honor a promise to deliver on regularization for undocumented families. In 2021, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau asked the immigration minister to explore ways of regularizing the status of undocumented workers contributing to Canadian communities. However, demonstrations say they have seen no action so far.
Without permanent resident status, undocumented people are missing weddings, funerals, birthdays, anniversaries, report card days. We are forced to look at our children through screens instead of actually being able to hug them. Prime Minister Trudeau, who is a father, promised regularization, which means permanent resident status for people who have lost their work permits, their study permits, or their refugee claims through no fault of their own. They're living here, they're working here, and they're struggling. And the only way to ensure fairness and equality is to ensure permanent resident status for all.
The Migrant Rights Network estimates there are more than 1.6 million people living without status in Canada. The federal government estimates there could be as many as 500,000 undocumented migrants in the country.
The leader of the federal Green Party spoke today about reaching a different conclusion than her NDP counterpart after both read the same report that says some parliamentarians participated in foreign interference.
If I'm relieved and he's more upset, that's a subjective question. How was he feeling before he read the report? I was plenty alarmed before I got to read the full report. And the greater context that it provided and the information contained within it was really helpful to me. And I don't change anything I already said, so I won't repeat it. But I do think...
Last week, Elizabeth May said the unredacted version of the parliamentary report includes no list of MPs who have shown disloyalty to Canada. Later in the week, Jagmeet Singh said he's even more alarmed than before after reading the report. He concluded that several MPs have knowingly aided foreign governments, saying what they're doing is unethical.
Bringing an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine was the focus of a global summit this weekend, with more than 90 countries, including Canada, taking part.
Leaders called for the territorial integrity of Ukraine to be the basis for any peace agreement. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver has the details.
High up in a luxurious resort surrounded by the Swiss Alps, nearly 100 world leaders and organizations gathered to chart the path to peace in Ukraine.
The main message is we are not intimidated and we are absolutely determined to uphold the rule of law.
The summit comes after Putin said he would enter peace talks if Ukraine withdraws its troops from areas Russia says it's annexed. Ukraine says that is never going to happen and is encouraging its allies here to provide more military support faster. Canada promised an air defense system in January 2023, but that still hasn't been delivered.
Of course, we wish the system was already in Ukraine because we are in a situation when every piece of air defense matters. It's an issue of death and life, issue of survival.
The Prime Minister says that system is still being built in the United States. While no new military support is on the table today, Canada did announce a $52.4 million support package for Ukraine, including $20 million to help repair Ukraine's damaged energy equipment and infrastructure, and $10 million to help reintegrate Ukrainian children kidnapped by Russia.
Everyone can agree that taking kids away from their families, trying to erase their language, their culture, that's an element of genocide. That's pure colonialism. These are things that Russia needs to be accountable for.
While a concrete plan for peace in Ukraine may not have been unveiled, experts say this gathering of so many world leaders sends a strong sign to the Russian president.
I think Putin is seeing international consensus forming against him and continuing. I think he might have been calculating that there would be big cracks.
France has said it intends to send military trainers into Ukraine, and it's stepping up pressure on its allies to join their initiative. Asked today whether Canada would take part, the Prime Minister wouldn't say. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Birkenstock, Switzerland.
A new international crossing between Canada and the U.S. was completed last week. Canadian and American iron workers connected the main deck of the Gordie Howe International Bridge Friday. The $6.4 billion bridge links Ontario and Michigan over the Detroit River. It's the longest cable-stayed bridge in North America. The crossing is set to open to vehicles, cyclists, and pedestrians late next year. And for more on the completion of the project, we're joined by iron worker Jason Huggett live. Jason, good to see you. You were pictured shaking hands with your American colleagues on the bridge. That looks already like a classic. What was that moment like for you?
Having a hard time hearing you.
Let's try again. Remember being on top of that bridge taking the photo? What was that like? Can you hear me? All right, looks like we're having some audio issues with Jason, who worked on that amazing bridge. Hopefully we'll check back with him a little bit later on in the show, and we'll continue this conversation.
Talk soon. The U.S. Surgeon General is calling on Congress to put warning labels on social media similar to the ones found on alcohol and tobacco products. Dr. Vivek Murthy says social media is an important contributor to the mental health crisis among young people. He's calling for warning labels to alert users to the potential harms of websites or apps. The Surgeon General says the warnings would regularly remind both parents and young people that social media has not been proven safe.
When adolescents spend more than 3 hours a day on social media, we're seeing an association with a doubling of risk of anxiety and depression symptoms. And the average amount of use per day among adolescents is nearly 5 hours. So that's deeply concerning to me, not just as Surgeon General, but as a parent myself. Now, a warning label would help parents to understand these risks. Many parents don't know that those risks exist. And we have data from tobacco warning labels that in fact tells us that they can be helpful in changing awareness and changing behavior.
Dr. Murthy's call comes amid growing concern over social media right here at home. Last month, Ontario school boards filed a lawsuit against the world's biggest social media platforms, including Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat. The suit alleges the addictive qualities of the apps have impacted students' learning, disrupted classrooms, and impacted mental health.
In the Middle East, Israel's prime minister has dissolved the country's war cabinet. From now on, Benjamin Netanyahu will reportedly hold smaller forums with some of his government members for sensitive issues. Critics say his wartime decision-making has been influenced by ultra-nationalists in his government who oppose a ceasefire deal with Hamas in exchange for the release of hostages. The war cabinet was dissolved a week after opposition lawmaker Benny Gantz quit. Netanyahu's governing coalition, in frustration over how the war was being handled. Well, Canada is set to become the first country in the world to have access to weekly insulin injections. The insulin will be sold in Canada under the name A Weekly. Now, the once-a-week insulin injection was approved by Health Canada in March for people living with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Manufacturer Novo Nordisk calls the weekly injection a world first. The drug will be available on June 30th.
It was a special Father's Day at the Toronto Zoo yesterday for a first-time dad and his new snow leopard cubs. The cubs are just 2 weeks old, and they gave their father, Pemba, a gift. Pemba was brought to Toronto as part of a snow leopard survival plan. He was introduced to the cubs' mother, Jita, in February, and the little animals were born in May. And the zoo says 2 red panda cubs were born just days ago to mother Sakura. The newborns are still vulnerable, and workers are keeping a careful watch on them using cameras. Sakura is nearly 11 years old, and there was concern she would not have cubs. Jazz.
Well, Michelle, we are settling into a multi-day heat event. With this comes a lot of the potential of some risk out there. So prepare yourselves accordingly if you work outside or you're planning to spend some time outdoors. The UV index today especially verging on extreme. We're at a 10. The next category up is the extreme one as we get to an 11. So just take that into account. Sun protection, hydration are key. That southwesterly wind is going to be hot as we head throughout our Monday. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast and give you a bit of a heads up when relief may return to our forecast.
Well, the heat is one of the big stories of the day. The week, in fact, we are embarking on a really steamy stretch to the point where the humidity and what nature is bringing our way could really impact you if you're not careful.
Yeah, I do love the hot weather, but this is where you have to really prepare, be careful, stay hydrated. A lot of things you have to consider when you go outside.
Heat stress and heat exhaustion can happen very quickly, and you don't always notice right away, but that dizziness, that confusion, that can take hold pretty quickly. So for the people who work outside especially, I know we're getting into the end of school season for a lot of people. We're taking on to camps and things like that. You really have to plan accordingly to be able to enjoy all of this in the best way possible. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Now, if you were up early on this morning, it didn't feel all that bad outside, but it definitely has changed quite a bit in the last hour or so. And we're not seeing that brilliant sunshine out there, a few light clouds, but the UV rays are so strong today. Even if we don't have a brilliantly sunny day, you still have to protect yourself in the exact same way. We'll take a look at our temperature map. We're already pretty warm, and it only gets hotter as we head into the second half of our day. That really warm period is typically in the kind of midpoint of our afternoon. We're sitting at 24. It feels like 29, and a southerly wind throughout the day is going to help it feel even muggier as you step outdoors. 28 through Windsor feeling like 36. Timmins, it feels like 33. Up through Moosonee feeling like 29. Into the afternoon, we'll be at 31. It'll feel like 40. Areas in southwestern Ontario, say through Windsor, London, they're also kind of feeling into that 40 to 42 range. As we head into the afternoon, we are watching for the chance of pop-up showers in and around southern Ontario. Nothing super organized, but because it is so hot, it's the perfect kind of combination of ingredients in the atmosphere for pop-up showers. Into the rest of our day, we are looking at that UV index again at a 10, which is considered very high. So just protect yourselves accordingly. Into this evening, the chance of pop-up showers is going to remain. We're looking at that kind of falling through the overnight. We should be at 14, and we'll sit at 21 for our low this evening. We're looking again at some scattered showers as a cold front kind of sweeps its way across, but it doesn't really do much. It just kind of pushes those showers south towards us, and then we just look at that kind of clearing out as we head overnight and into the day tomorrow. So very brief showers. As we head throughout our afternoon, not a lot in the way of any active weather. Again, those like little pop-ups are just very brief, but they will be noticeable for areas in and around southern Ontario. As we get in towards 8 p.m., really not a lot in the way of cloud cover. Overnight into the early morning hours, some pop-up showers more likely for us here in the downtown core and throughout the GTA. Into our Tuesday, more sunshine, more heat, more humidity. We are in a multi-day heat event. We reach that criteria through southwestern Ontario, southern Ontario, central Ontario for the next 4 to 5 days. We don't really see any relief until we get in towards the weekend, and that just means we're still above seasonal. We're just not into heat warning criteria. We are 31 or higher throughout the majority of the week and 21 or higher throughout the majority of the evenings there this week. So it is really, really humid out there. Just be careful. I know everyone's excited for the summer. There are so many festivals and events that take place, but you want to make sure you're out and enjoying them safely. Breaks in the shade and lots of hydration. The humidex values are into the 40s and they stay there throughout the week as well. The chance of pop-up showers lingers through our Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, just because it is so hot outside. It's not really until we get into Friday night that we see some of this heat start to break. We'll drop to a low of 19, but we're still well above that seasonal norm. We get closer to seasonal as we head throughout our Saturday and Sunday, but we really don't lose any of that heat and humidity throughout the entire week. So hydrate, have fun, and just be out there safely. Michelle.
Thanks, Jess. To sports, the Blue Jays will be looking for a third straight win when they begin a series with the Boston Red Sox tonight.
And Dalton gets one high in the air to deep right. And it is gone!
Yes, Dalton Varsho hit a grand slam as the Jays wrapped up their series with the Cleveland Guardians yesterday afternoon. The team ended up winning the game 7-6. The Jays kick off their series with the Red Sox this evening.
And the Boston Celtics will have another chance to win their 18th NBA title tonight. The Dallas Mavericks avoided elimination with a blowout win Friday, but the Celtics still lead the series 3-1. Boston will be on home court tonight, where they've won 5 straight playoff games. Tip-off is set for just after 8:30 tonight.
In the world of golf, Bryson DeChambeau claimed his second U.S. Open title yesterday.
Another epic up and down at Pinehurst for a U.S. Open championship.
DeChambeau was tied with Rory McIlroy heading into the final hole. McIlroy missed a short putt, which gave DeChambeau a shot at the title, and he came through. The win is his second major title. Meanwhile, McIlroy's miss means he's still searching for his first major win in 10 years.
In France, a rehearsal was held today for the opening ceremony of next month's Paris Olympics. 55 boats sailed along the Seine River in preparation for the nearly 4-hour event on July 26th. About 200 Olympic delegations will join the parade on more than 80 boats along the 6-kilometer route. Today's journey ended right next to the Eiffel Tower, which will be featured prominently during the Games.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, looking at the benefits of hybrid work. We'll have more on new data indicating it's more likely to keep people in their jobs. That's when we return. The COVID-19 pandemic had many impacts, but one of the most lasting ones is it has changed how people work, as many now work from home or have adopted hybrid schedules. Now, there's new data indicating there might be a benefit to hybrid work. A study which tracked more than 1,600 people in China for 6 months found employees who worked hybrid shifts were 33% less likely to quit. For more on this and some of the other science stories of the week, we're joined by CTV science and technology specialist Dan Riskin. Dan, I guess the big question here is, can employees really be just as productive with hybrid work as when they're 100% in the office in person?
Yeah, it's a really nice data set. Half the people were coming in 5 days a week. Half the people were coming in 2 days a week and working from home for the other 3 days. And as you say, they were far less likely to quit. But in terms of their productivity, it was exactly the same. And in terms of their likelihood of getting a promotion over the next 2 years, that was also exactly the same. So really nice evidence showing that, at least for some kinds of offices, that hybrid model really does work better. The company ends up saving a ton of money in terms of turnover, training new people, and all of that stuff.
Oh, wow. And, you know, we get to talk to you at home. We get to see a little glimpse at your home. And it's working out really well for us, Dan.
It's been working for me, for sure.
I bet. I know. You got 3 kids. You're busy. Turning to another story, specifically with sports, and there is a big event to look forward to this summer, the Olympics in Paris. And now there's a surprising finding about the performance of female athletes and their menstrual cycles. What is the latest there?
This is really interesting. They took a whole bunch of athletes and had them do a cognitive test on a computer to measure their reaction time and their accuracy, and they found no difference between men and women. But when you break down the data for women in terms of their menstrual cycle, they found that women who are menstruating actually have 10 milliseconds faster reaction time, and they're making fewer mistakes, despite the fact that if you ask those women, what the effect of menstruation is on their performance, they feel like they're doing worse. In fact, they're doing better at that time of the month. So it's a very counterintuitive finding and an exciting one.
Wow, there's studies for everything out there. Dan, how about this new theory that might explain the elusive dark matter? What is dark matter, and what is the new theory about it?
Dark matter is this very unappealing theory that's been around for about 100 years to explain the fact that there's too much gravity in space. When you look at galaxies or when you look at the universe, a whole bunch of different kinds of experiments find too much gravity. And so the explanation we've been using is that there's something invisible out there that we call dark matter that actually makes up 85% of the mass of the universe, and we just can't see it. And people haven't been very satisfied with that. There's a new theory out now, paper just came out, suggesting that maybe that extra gravity doesn't come from extra mass, but comes from something different altogether, just warps in the time-space continuum. So it's confusing. We'll continue to follow it. But for now, scientists still just don't know the answer to this one.
And we have no way to really, for those of us who aren't geniuses, to check if this is really the reality or not. But yeah, we'll take your word for it, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
CTV Science and Tech expert Dan Riskin. Take care.
You too.
Well, a music class in St. John's, Newfoundland is bringing parents and kids together at an early age.
The program is aimed at letting little ones find their voice through music, and early evidence shows it is working. CTV's Garrett Berry explains.
Tap, tap, friendly.
Graduation day for some of the youngest musicians you'll ever see. This class starts them early.
I've had children as young as 5 weeks come in. I've had some parents ask before they even have their child if they can get on our wait list.
It's backed by research that shows early exposure to songs and banging on beat helps not only with musical pattern recognition, but speech and infant communication, like pointing at things or waving goodbye.
The brain is just growing substantially in the first 5 years.
Parents and guardians are seeing changes in their little drummers.
We enrolled her in this class too, just to try and bring her out of that shyness, and it's helped a great deal. And she has a lot of energy, so she's kind of doing her own thing here, but she's playing and interacting with kids.
But it's designed to help parents too, to help them make connections in what can be a lonely postpartum period.
We were in a couple, just every day we'd go find a group wherever we could. Mostly for me at the beginning, and then now it's for him because he gets to socialize.
The program founder knows that need well.
I started this business because I was one of those moms who needed that connection, needed to get out of the house. COVID had just hit at the time, and I was like, I need to create something where parents can get out of the house, socialize their kids, socialize themselves.
Groups like this are getting more popular across the country. This fall, classes here are getting much bigger. She's hired 6 new teachers and got the keys to a new space for her business, all to keep up with surging demand.
If they can take their joy from infancy right up until when they're even when they're adults, I mean, that's the goal.
Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
Likes the mic flash there. Pixar's latest film has claimed the biggest opening weekend of the year so far.
I'm too gross to go anywhere ever again! Well, that's a preview of the next 10 years. I'm excited.
Inside Out 2 is a follow-up to the 2015 original, once again giving voices to emotions like joy, sadness, and anger. It brought in an estimated $155 million US, the best debut since Barbie last July. Bad Boys: Ride or Die dropped to second with $33 million in its second weekend, while Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes climbed its way back up to third with just over $5 million in ticket sales.
Still to come, trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange was down this morning. Details on that and other market activity after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Business news now and a peek at the markets to start off the week.
So far, the numbers are down. Here's BNN Bloomberg's Paul Bagnall with the details.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. Stocks were mixed in morning trading, with Toronto down about 0.7%. The US S&P 500 index, which hit record highs last week, moved slightly higher. Oil also climbed, topping $79 US. Crude jumped almost 4% last week as investors reverse bets that oil prices are set for a fall. National Bank of Canada shares slipped again, trading below $106, as some investors question the rich price the bank plans to pay in its takeover of Canadian Western Bank. However, Veritas Investment Research upgraded National shares to buy, saying the deal is, quote, a strategic win as the bank diversifies and scales its Canadian personal and commercial banking franchise outside Quebec. And copper fell, hitting an 8-week low below $4.45 US a pound as Chinese economic data lagged predictions. The red metal has posted 4 straight weekly drops after hitting record highs last month. Aluminum hit a 2-month low after data showed China's production of the metal hit a record high last month. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
How about this? Lake Superior has been named one of the world's most beautiful lakes. Condé Nast put Superior on its list of 48 lakes to visit. The article describes the lake as more like an ocean due to its depth and its more than 4,700 kilometers of shoreline. It also says Superior has a lot to offer, from sandstone cliffs to waterfalls and sea caves. Other Canadian lakes on the list were Lake Winnipeg and Moraine Lake in Banff, Alberta.
Coming up, delivering postcards in person. A man from New Zealand has embarked on a global journey to make sure the meaningful messages make it to their intended recipients. As people prepare to head out on summer vacations, many will mark their trips with a postcard.
Now a man from New Zealand is making trips of his own to make sure those postcards reach their destinations. CTV's Adam Sawatsky explains.
Johnny Beardmore has arrived here from the other side of the world to meet someone he doesn't know.
I'm super excited, and I'm also nervous at the same time.
Someone who not only doesn't know Johnny's coming,
will they be home?
Doesn't know Johnny at all.
Will they be receptive? Or will they be run out of town with a shotgun?
Johnny, on the other hand, is armed with only a postcard, a map app on his phone, and under his shorts,
my lucky tortoise undies.
You see, this journey began after Johnny met these giant tortoise on the Galapagos Islands, where he also happened upon this old postbox, where visitors have dropped off letters for centuries, so others heading in the direction they're addressed can pick them up and deliver them.
I thought, wow, there's something in this.
So Johnny launched the Galapagos Postman Challenge with the goal of hand-delivering 50 postcards from the box to people living on 7 continents.
It was about reconnecting with the world and reconnecting one letter at a time.
To connect with others in a way his dad no longer could, after enduring ALS for 8 years.
And I was looking for inspiration that would be something in his memory.
So Johnny's striving to raise $100,000 for ALS research by documenting his travels from Antarctica to South and Central America.
I've got a little letter to deliver.
And now North America.
I brought it all the way from the Galapagos Islands.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
And while the 15 letters Johnny's delivered so far have been met with initial apprehension.
Who's this weirdo from New Zealand?
Like Bob, who received a postcard from his daughter Monica, the people are always left feeling appreciative.
Sure, that's great.
And whether the interactions are brief or last late into the night, Johnny says they're all reminders of how meaningful it can be to connect in person. Well, you still can.
So go and reconnect with somebody that you haven't spoken to for a while.
And as the Galapagos postman heads off to his next stops across Canada, he knows his dad would be proud.
I think he'd probably be laughing and having a beer and saying, go for it, son.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
Think of letter carriers and other people working outside today.
Yeah, oh, exactly. It is steamy. I mean, it wasn't too bad this morning, but now we're getting into the afternoon. What should we expect?
It's that slow but steady climb. So we're looking at not only the humidex values being in that kind of low 40 range, but we also have a UV index verging on extreme. So despite not seeing a brilliantly sunny day, you still have to really think about your time outdoors, sun protection, or wearing the appropriate layers. I know it is really hot outside, but for a lot of the people who work kind of in gardening and who work outdoors in the construction field, they know They're well versed in protecting themselves accordingly. As we head into the second half of the day, we have a southerly wind that's going to kind of carry us through, and it stays hot out there. The chance of pop-up showers in southwestern Ontario doesn't really go anywhere. We have the chance of it here because we have the right ingredients, but we're likely to stay quite dry in the downtown core. The criteria for a heat warning, again, is different. From Windsor through to Chatham-Kent, it is different from London through to, say, the border with Kingston and towards Ottawa and northern Ontario. So we are in that heat warning criteria for each of those communities. For us here in the GTA, it's 2 or more consecutive days with a max temperature of 31 and a low of 20 or higher, and those humidex values at 40 or higher for 2 or more days, and we have it for about 5 in total. So just keep that in mind. This heat not going anywhere for the rest of the week. So if you don't have AC, fans, kind of keeping windows open, creating a bit of a breeze will be helpful. Right now we're sitting at 24. It feels like 29. We're looking at those humidex values climbing into the 30s and 40s and staying there. Again, as we head into the end of the week, there is some reprieve on the way, but we are really holding on to this warmth, this heat, this humidity from today right through to Friday. So enjoy the weather. I know it is summertime. A lot of folks really love the heat. Some don't, but regardless, prepare yourself accordingly and you'll get through it just okay.
Yeah, good advice. Thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. Stay cool. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Good advice. Stay cool.